Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is attempting to figure out how to get an aid package through. There's some really interesting dynamics that are going on here. There are people who want to give military aid to Israel. There are people who want to give military aid to Ukraine. There are people who want to give military aid to Taiwan, or in that area, I guess. And there are some who want to provide humanitarian aid in Gaza. All of those different cohorts, there's overlap, but they're not exclusively the same. And no one, or I should say, no combination of any of those four seems to be able to get through the House. So his plan is to separate them. And here's a guy who is ignoring the fact in many respects that, you know, he wants to make it a civil war, but that sort of like contends that there's two factions. And really, you know, he's got like 2 or 3 factions in the Republican Party because they have become so extreme that the margins between them, even if it's not that wide, are so deep that they can't seem to be able to do anything. Here is Mike Johnson basically trying to make himself out to be Abraham Lincoln.
Right now, we're in a political struggle, a battle between a completely different vision for the country. We have colleagues in the Congress who envision for us not those things. They have disdain for those things I just listed. They instead envision that America should be remade in the form of some sort of, you know, European-style socialist utopia. That is a dangerous fool's errand. That is a road to Marxism, communism, you know, socialism. That's a step towards those eventualities, and that is not who we are as a country. And so for us to accomplish our mission, which is to save the republic, we need to add more Republicans to the House and grow the House majority so we have more votes. We need to win back the Republican majority in the Senate. And we need to restore Donald J. Trump to the White House as our nominee. I believe all those things will happen, but we have to have a united front, and we have to have our members work together. And we'll be working today to do that very thing. Look, we're in unprecedented times. Okay, we're in dangerous times, as has been articulated here, around the world, and here at home. We need steady leadership. We need steady hands at the wheel. Look, I regard myself as a wartime speaker. I mean, in a literal sense, we are. I knew that when I took the gavel. I didn't anticipate that this would be an easy path. The former Speaker Newt Gingrich posted a couple days ago on his social media that this is the hardest challenge that's faced a speaker probably in the history of the country, in the moment that we're in right now. He said arguably maybe comparable to the Civil War, but maybe worse. A single vote margin at a difficult time when the nation is terribly divided. The way we get through that is we show unity, and we explain how we have answers to all these great challenges. We have those answers. We shouldn't get in the way of ourselves.
Well, it turns out the Republicans are getting in the way of themselves. And let's be clear, the divide is amongst the Republicans.
Yeah, I think as America as a whole, I'm not a historian, but I think probably more united than the eve of the Civil War.
Well, I would imagine that's the case. But I mean, can you, the analogy would be more like we're on the eve of the Civil War, and the Confederacy actually, some want to enslave even more people. That's what it seems to be about. Now, let's look at just, before we put up that video, here is Representative Scott Perry outlining the House supplemental bill. He is not happy. This is the sort of like top sheet, apparently, that was handed around yesterday. And I love this tweet that he had. This is number 5. And I love this tweet because he uses, if I'm not mistaken, the classic conservative paradigm rubric, if you will, that is of the ramming something down the throat. There's no There is no situation in which conservatives don't seem to be having something rammed down their throat. Representative Scott Perry says, notice anything missing? Can we pop this one up? Speaker Johnson failed to incorporate any border score security into any of the 4 bills he's going to ram down our throats this week. Somehow, Republicans and conservatives are constantly having things rammed down their throat.
It'd be nice to have like a search engine optimization type of guy look into, like, when you use that phrase, does it just juice your message like 1.5x or something? You're getting some rammed down your throat, be afraid.
It's, there's always this problem that sometimes, like, people, people keep ramming things down their throat and they have nothing to do with it. Let's go scroll up onto this supplemental as it's written here. 95 essentially $billion. And this is going to be an interesting sort of like, this is somewhat revealing, and I haven't read anything too deep into this, but stay right there. This, Ukraine, $48.43 billion. 7.85 billion direct support to Ukraine government, 8 million for IG. I guess that's the Inspector General, right, to make sure that this stuff happens, is doled out. Essentially 14 billion for USAI for Ukraine to purchase US weapons. That's, in other words, like basically coupons to buy from our weapons manufacturer. 14.8 billion for Defense Department ops in EUCOM AOR. I'm not sure I know what that stands for, but I imagine that's operations that are in support of the Ukrainians.
United States European Command's area of responsibility.
It's basically just like we're going to shore up our support. But this is also an interesting figure. 19.85 billion replenishment of stocks to the Defense Department. In other words, we've already forwarded $20 billion worth of weapons out of our own sort of cachet, and we're just going to replenish that. Israel, similar dynamic. $4 billion for missile defense, $1.2 billion for Iron Beam. I'm not sure what that is. That could be a missile defense as well. $3.5 billion in FMS for Israel to purchase U.S. weapons. I imagine that's some other form of like of funding to, coupons to buy our stuff. $800 billion for ammunition plant improvements. I imagine those are their ammunition plants.
It's self-sustaining.
There's $4 billion replenishment of stocks to DOD. In other words, we've given them $4 billion of weaponry. And Ukraine is being invaded by the world's biggest army, or one of the world's biggest armies, right? A military. I imagine it goes U.S. and then less than half that size is China, Russia, other militaries. But the Russian military's got to be pretty big. And we've already forwarded them $20 billion worth of weapons. 1/4 of that, or I should say, 1/4 of that we've already provided for Israel, going after 30,000 supposed Hamas fighters. Red Sea operations, used for operations, force protection, the replacement of combat expenditures. I imagine that is basically dealing with stuff like, the Iranians and the Houthis, and this is all expense that we're having to deal with because of Israel's being hell-bent on making this a regional war and continuing with these operations. And then Indo-PACOM, which I imagine is the Indian Pacific Command, $2 billion worth of replenishment of stocks to DOD. One wonders where those stocks went, Because as far as I know, we're not fighting anybody in that region.
Yeah.
But that's where it is, and they don't appreciate it being rammed down their throats. Here is Louisiana Representative Garrett Graves speaking with CNN's Manu Raju, number 6, wondering what Republicans are getting out of this bill. And, I mean, I guess he's not aware that there's a lot of Republicans, probably more Republicans, who are going to vote for the Israel aid than even Democrats at this point. But here he is wondering, there's a lot of complaints.
What do you think about the Speaker's strategy on Ukraine? Does it make sense to you to split all these up and cobble it all together?
In a word, no. Look, the reality is that you have to keep in mind, President Biden asked for Ukraine, President Biden asked for Israel, President Biden asked for PACOM or Taiwan, and President Biden supports the changes to TikTok. What are Republicans getting out of this?
What do you think about the Speaker's strategy on Ukraine?
What exactly do they want, aside from like arresting all immigrants? They tried to get a border deal. They wouldn't sign off on it. That was originally in this. Right. That was originally in this. And I wasn't happy about it. But Joe Biden was willing basically to adopt a whole host of Donald Trump policies, throw it in there in terms of legislatively, to coax people into voting for the Ukraine aid. And they rejected it. They can't take yes for an answer. They don't know how to. Here is Donald Trump asked about the effort to vacate the speakership, because that's where this is heading. I think it's now we've got 2 Republicans who are willing to bring up this motion to vacate. And here's Trump. It's so awesome. I have to say, the best part I like about Trump is he will throw over anyone if he feels like it will provide him even the slightest soft of landing. He will throw anybody under the bus at any time, regardless of, it's wonderful.
A real mess.
Well, we'll see what happens with that. I think he's very good.
Did he brief you on his plan to do 4 separate parties?
Good luck. Good job you're doing. Good. Thank you. Very nice.
How should Israel respond to
He's basically just said, it seems like he's doing a good job, but we'll see what happens.
Good luck to him.
Yeah, good luck to him.
Remarks at NYC Bodega is a funny way to frame that.
Trump could basically tell these people in the caucus, do this or don't do this. And he's not, because he's not going to expend a single...
I respect processes. I don't have to intervene in them if they're maybe even not going my way.
I've got to maintain both support for what Israel's doing and also plausible non-support for what Israel's doing. And also, on some level, Ukraine too. And so if I come out in favor of any of this, it's going to make it much harder for me to maintain a completely unknowing position on either topic. So good luck. Good luck to him. I like God. How's that?
Tough stuff.